Hey guys, I just shot a video and I kept referring to survival knives, and what I really meant by that was, a knife for wilderness use. I guess you could refer to it as a bushcraft knife, depending on people's definition of bushcraft, which varies from person to person. My definition of it is it's just the craft of a bushman. Just how we do what we do out in the bush to get by. But I don't want people reading into the name survival knife a bit too much. It's just when I'm talking about large survival knives, I'm really just talking about large knives that are for wilderness use, for use like a machete or batoning or chopping stuff. Now I know this video is probably going to generate a bit of controversy, but if you can't accept that for where I am and what I do out in the bush, a large knife with a blade of about 10 inches is good for me. If you can't accept that that tool equips me the best, better than a small knife or something, I really don't care. I mean, I'll probably lose a couple of subscribers from this, get a heap of thumbs down, but you know what? Don't really care. If you're not willing to have a reasonable discussion with someone, then I probably do not care too much about your opinion. Those of you who want to have a reasonable and logical discussion, go for it. If you're not willing to accept that other people do things differently and have different situations and need different things from their cutting tools out in the bush, and if you think that your way is the only way and your way is perfect and the best and anyone who disagrees is wrong, if you're like that, then I really don't care what you think. I'm not out to tell everybody they need to carry a large survival knife, although a lot of people seem to be out to tell me that I shouldn't. I'm not going to tell people what's best for their environment based on what I see from their videos. I ain't going to do that. And a lot of people seem to not grasp the environment I'm in and just don't understand what kind of things I do out here. But it happens. I thought I would come out and do a video on why I carry a large survival knife. There's a lot of controversy about large survival knives, and I'm constantly getting messages and comments about how bad of a choice a large survival knife is as a bushcrafting or survival tool. You know what? For where I am, for my environment, for my skill set, for what I do out in the bush and what I have to deal with, I believe that a large survival knife is a better choice than an axe, a small bushcraft knife, or a sword. I even believe that it's better than a combination of those tools, because it simplifies it and makes it lighter and less bulky. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not on open scrubland. Where I am right now is what is classified as a dry rainforest, although at the moment it's not exactly dry. So, does that just make it a normal rainforest? Alright, well, I like to get off the trail. Trails get kind of boring. So, I like to go cross country. I like to go up rivers. I like to go through the bush. I like to go, you know, just leave the trail behind. It's what I do. It's what I love. And because of that, having a lot of weight, bad idea, especially around here. A lot of these rocks are just polished and slippery as hell. It's really easy to have a mechanical injury out here. So, reduction of weight is a good thing. Not only that, I really want to have the maximum utility and performance out of my gear for the amount of weight that I'm carrying. And when I have a large survival knife that I really like out here, I do not feel under-equipped in terms of cutting tools. Now, a lot of people come into my videos and they'll see me doing something like cross-cutting through a knot in a piece of dry hardwood with a Bowie knife. And, or any survival knife in fact. And they'll just, it confuses them. And sometimes they'll go off at me for doing something as stupid as cross-cutting a piece of thick hardwood with a survival knife. Honestly, that is purely an artificiality caused by the reviewing process. I don't do that. Honestly, the kind of wood that I typically will cross-cut for a fire is about that thick. Does not take a saw or an axe to get through that in a short period of time. In fact, I'll do it right now. Alright. Done! Do I really need to carry a saw or an axe for that? And, you know, if I'm in a better position than this, like I've got a nice big stump to do it on, I'm in a comfortable position, I can do that a dozen times in 10 minutes and I've got tons of firewood done. And that, straight bits, that diameter, no problem for batoning, especially with a durable knife. Now, I do not normally baton, but I believe that a large survival knife should be able to handle it. When I think of a large survival knife, I think of a wood processing tool that can handle small, finer tasks as well. The reason why I go with a larger knife is because I want something that I can, you know, do a bit of heavier chopping with. You know, so I can just bust that out. I mean, yeah, you could notch that with a mora, but it'd be a pain. You could do it with a saw. In fact, I've got one right now. This is the Bucko Expert. So let's have a go. How the hell that should handle it? Nope. Huh. I'm sure that would have done it. No. if anything, that is more hassle than just using the large survival knife. If I was cross-cutting something like that, and something that big as what I normally cross-cut for wood, then yeah, I'd probably be better off with a saw or an axe, not a large survival knife. But honestly, that is fine. That is all I really need to get a fire going. And despite the fact that it's raining right now, where I live is actually pretty dry. Hell, I can usually find dry firewood even up in here. Except for when it's raining, that becomes a little bit trickier, but I can still get it going. It's not that big a deal. Honestly, that same process works just as easy with stuff like twice that diameter. Once you get to about 3 times that diameter, then it becomes a real pain. And a really good saw would probably feel a lot better. I do wish that saw was longer though. But, yeah. It's supposedly the same size as the Barco Laplander, so I don't know. I prefer something a bit longer just because it would be a bit more efficient. Right, now, that's all I need for cross-cutting and stuff. If I had a saw, a small knife, not really an advantage. In fact, it's a disadvantage. When I get into the really dense scrub, I love having my 10-inch knife, well, my knife with a 10-inch blade on it, to use it like a machete, and it works great. I should probably try out using a little mora as a machete. See how well that works. But yeah, I use it as a machete, so even with what I do for firecraft, having a small bushcraft knife and a saw be comparable, it's still going to be lagging behind if I need to go through a really thick piece of brush and I need a machete to get through easily. There's a lot of fallacies about large survival knives. And, you know, a lot of people think they are not good bushcraft tools. And honestly, that in itself, I believe, is a fallacy. I think that's wrong. I think they're great. But there are things that do things better. Like an axe will chop better. A saw will cross-cut better. But for my environment, the preference is definitely for a large survival knife. A lot of people have told me that, oh, a large knife or long knife is no good, or a big blade is no good for bushcraft. Well, I'm going to have to say, I think you're wrong. I've seen mears say that the most important bushcraft tool is the machete. He's usually referring to as his parang. But yeah, he doesn't seem to have a problem with long blades. So I'm inclined to agree with him. I'll put in the description bar where he says that a machete is the most important bushcraft tool and an essential part of bushcraft. Although we have to define what we mean by bushcraft, because it does differ from person to person. For me, it's basically what you do out in the bush. Basically the craft of the bushman. That's what bushcraft is to me. And for where I am, a large survival knife is awesome. Now, about a large survival knife, it should be able to handle fine tasks. A lot of people say that a long blade or a large knife is no good for fine tasks. Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you. For things like feather sticks, food prep, and carving, whittling and stuff, it's not the length of the blade that matters. It's the edge geometry, the grind, and the cross section of the knife. That's what affects it. Say, if I took one of those really nice moras that everyone loves for bushcraft, and I gave it a 12-inch long blade, but I kept the cross-section identical. Still scandi grind, still just as thick, still the same grind angles, just longer. You should be able to do all of your notching and feather sticking and all that kind of stuff just as easily. Now, some people prefer a small knife full processing game. Now, I will point out that a lot of indigenous cultures process game with machetes. And now, you probably know Dave Canterbury, who developed the Pathfinder system. I have seen him butcher a possum with a Weatherling's, well, what was it, the small forest axe, or, you know, it's an axe, it's a Weatherling, like that big. It processed a small game item, so it can be done. But, you know, I digress. There's a lot of fallacies like that in bushcraft, or what seems to be the groupthink of bushcraft groups and forums and stuff like that. The dumbest fallacy I've ever heard was, I heard one guy say that large knives do not have as good an edge retention as a small knife. Now how's that for a fallacy? Am I missing something? I always thought that edge retention was a factor of the steel it's made out of, the heat treat, and the geometry of the edge, not the length of the overall blade. That's just, I don't know, am I missing something? I have no desire to publicly, you know, make fun of that person, because I'm just not like that. I'm not going to tell everyone that they need to start just using a big survival knife. Different people in different areas are going to have different requirements. For the amount of cross-cutting power I need, this is enough. I do quite well with just this. But at the moment, this is all I really need. I make it sharp as hell, so I can do fine tasks with it. It handles great. It's great for clearing through brush when I'm going cross country, and you know, I want to get through an area that's just a complete tangled mess. A big knife does everything I need it to. But where you are, you might need more cross-cutting power than me. You might be someplace that's colder than I am. I'm in central Queensland. Not the coldest place on earth. But, you know, I get by with that amount of cross-cutting and processing that thickness of wood. I get by with it. I have no problem with it. If you're in a colder place, you might require more wood to burn, or whatever. But I'm not going to speculate on, you know, what other people should use in their environment. That's up to them. But I would hope that you would give a large survival knife a decent one a chance. Now granted, there are a lot out there that really suck. The fact that it is a large survival knife doesn't mean that it's not going to be able to perform well. The performance is going to be based on what the actual physical knife is, not whether or not it has a 10-inch blade. But I just hope you would be a bit more accepting of what other people do, and, you know, what other people's requirements are and what tool works best for them. And stop hating on the large wilderness blades. I mean, a lot of it is based on groupthink and fallacies, and is just unfounded. They have their place. They have environments where they excel. They have environments where other things would do better. It is what it is. just, you know, I'm just hoping to change somebody's opinion on the larger knife, because they don't suck. They have their niche. They have the place. They have the situations where they are awesome. They have their places where they suck. I mean, a Weatherling's awesome. Weatherling's large axe would suck out here with the weight. And could you imagine trying to use that as a machete? But you know, in a more wooded area, it might be great. You know, I'm just hoping that some people could be a little bit more open-minded. You know, but I've been rambling on too long.